First of all, it was October, a rare month for boys. Not that all months aren't rare, but there be bad and good, as the pirates say. Those are the first words of Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Now, I probably read those words 1,000 times, because when I was a kid, I read Ray Bradbury more than any other writer. I mean, I read Dandelion Wine every summer. I read Something Wicked This Way Comes every fall. And I'd automatically buy any used copies of any Ray Bradbury books I found anywhere. I'd just buy them and give them away. Like Fahrenheit 451, The Martian Chronicles, The Illustrated Man. And I was always giving away my last copy of a Ray Bradbury book. You know, I'd go looking through my library for my copy of Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I realized, like, I gave my only copy away to someone who dropped by the house. And on those Sunday nights I was talking about earlier, when I used to lie in bed despairing as a kid, I can remember lying there actually worrying that Ray Bradbury might die before I had the chance to tell him how much he meant to me. So when I was 13 years old, I decided to write him a letter to tell him so. My dad told me to send it to his publisher, which I did, but I never heard back. Ray Bradbury hit me in my Twilight Zone years, right around the same time as Stephen King. And I gotta tell you, it was my dad who turned me on to Stephen King, and I want to tell you something about my father. He had this amazing ability to say just one thing about a book or a writer that would intrigue me enough to then go discover it for myself without him even knowing about it. In this case, he told me that he was reading Salem's Lot. That's Stephen King's vampire story. So he was reading it up in Cochiner, Ontario, in the middle of the night with the power out. Don't do that. He was reading by candlelight, and we came to the part where the children, who are now vampires, come scratching at the window, asking to be let in. He said he'd been almost unable to walk down the hall to his bedroom. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're a 13-year-old boy, and your father, like the Almighty Father, tells you about a book that made him too scared to walk down the hall to his own bed. You're gonna check that stuff out? Like, I got everything by Stephen King. I could get my hands on him. I was obsessed with him. He was a hero to me. I mean, he was also one of those guys posing with the cigarette and the typewriter on the back of the dust jacket. When I was 13 years old, it didn't get any more badass than that. I wanted to be one of those guys. So bad. And the amazing thing that Stephen King did, in my opinion, I mean, his gift to us all, I mean, besides telling incredible stories, Stephen King got so many people reading, probably never would have read otherwise. And a lot of us Stephen King fans went on to discover all kinds of stuff that inspired him. And Ray Bradbury was definitely one of his biggest inspirations. You know, I think I might have read too many other books, because I can't read Stephen King anymore. You know, I love him. Like, I'm a fan for life. I just can't read him again. Ray Bradbury, on the other hand, I'm reading him again right now. I had gotten a conversation recently with someone about reading. I was talking to this guy about reading, and I mentioned a book I was rereading at the time. And he said, "What, you mean like, so you mean like the same book? I don't get it. I mean, why would you read it again when you already read it? Why would you listen to a song twice? Why would you listen to an album again? Why would you order the same food at your favorite restaurant? I mean, why would you even talk to your buddy over there again? You already met him, didn't you? I mean, people always go back to their favorite food, like movies, music, their friends, like our best friends. Of course. But that's not the way people generally think about books. With books, it's like, thanks, I read it. Yeah, I read that. No, I read that. Thanks. No, I've done that. I've been there. Like, I'm the exact opposite of that. Like, why would you even introduce me to this book if I can't read it again? I mean, we might as well just not meet. And this whole, like, not reading books again thing, it's like, it strikes me as grown-up thinking. Because I don't know about you, but I have never in my life seen a kid who didn't want to hear their favorite story again. Like when I was a kid in Koshner, my dad took us to the Red Lake Public Library every Saturday and we'd stock up on our books for the week. I mean, I'd always grab my favorites. There's books I probably signed out 100 times. And something my dad would do to pass the hours on long car trips when I was a kid, he'd go to the library before we left, he'd take out a bunch of my favorite books and he'd wrap them in newspaper like Christmas gifts. He'd stash them in a briefcase behind the driver's seat, you know, and he'd say, when we're an hour the other side of Wawa, you remind me, because I got something for you. You know, and I'd be like watching the clock, I'd be, Dad, like we left Wawa an hour ago, you know, you said you had something for me. He said, did I say that? And he'd pull out one of my favorite books, like, you know, wrapped like a present with my name on the wrapping, and I'd tear it open and rediscover it. But for some reason, when we get older, that changes. And what I've noticed is it becomes a kind of a numbers game. For instance, like I live in downtown Toronto. I live in an old house in the Kensington Market. And I don't know how many books there are in my house. Maybe 3,000, maybe less. But I mean, I live in a small place, right? And the books are everywhere. And when you come into my house for the first time, you kind of have to say something about the books, you know, because that's what there is. And what I've noticed over the years, people come into my house for the first time, what pops out of their mouth, I don't think they even mean to say it. They walk in and they say, have you read all these? Like, how many of these have you actually read? But nobody ever comes in and asks me the good questions. Nobody ever comes in and says, you know, which of these are your best friends? Have you ever read one of these out loud on the phone to a girl you're in love with? Are any of these the 25th copy you bought of the same book? Because you love it so much, you gave them all away? Are there poems here that have helped you get through things? Have you ever stayed up all night reading one of these and suffered an exalted loneliness because the book just reminded you how alive you are? You wanted to share that with somebody? Those would be some good questions. I can answer those questions. But no, it's like, have you read all these? One guy comes into my house. He's looking at my shelves and he says to me, he says, Corin, do you have all this poetry to help you score with girls? No, man. I have all this poetry so that I can have these incredible conversations with guys like you.